Synthetic fibers actually start as an oil material. So in other words, just like Jed Clampett used to say that bubbling crude out of Texas is shipped off to a place like Shaw or Mohawk who make the majority of their own fibers today, and then they're going to mix it together with other chemicals. At that point, they make it into large plastic sheets, and those sheets then are actually chipped down into small little chips. Those chips are actually melted and extruded, and they're run through a spinneret, which looks like a shower head, and then they pick up the shape of the hole, and that hole is what determines the shape of the fiber. The fiber is wound onto a core. If they decide that they want the dye to be inside of the fiber, such as an olefin fiber that has to be solution dyed, they will actually put pigments in along with the chips, and so the color is going to be inside the fiber as well as outside the fiber. Now, if they decide they want to take that long strand, which is called a continuous filament, and make it into a staple fiber, which would mimic natural fibers such as cotton and wool, they'll chop it into smaller pieces, 6.5 to 8.5 inches long. At that point, that is a staple. The staple then is wound also onto a core, but you'll always notice the difference in a staple fiber being that it has little short pieces as opposed to a continuous filament, which will have one long continuous strand. The one other issue that you'll have is they'll put an anti-stat filament in with this to allow static electricity to be discharged to the floor instead of through us. Now, as we talk about the individual fibers, we look first at the most popular fiber, which is going to be nylon. Each of these, this is a cut pile residential, a glue down commercial type product, and this would be a printed nylon such as you would see in restaurants or maybe into hotels, lesser hotels, not some of the fancier ones, which may have woven wool products. The second most popular one over the last couple of years has been Olefin Berbers. In this particular case, a Berber is really just a looped product. Now there's a big difference between an Olefin Berber, which is solution dyed and almost indestructible, and a wool Berber, which were the originals. Wool Berbers are much more delicate. Remember, it's always about the fiber and how we clean it. The next one will be polyester. Polyester is actually the fastest growing segment of the overall market for two reasons. One is it's less expensive than nylon, and the other thing is that there's new technology. DuPont brought out a new product called Sorona. It was sent off to Mohawk, who had the exclusive arrangement on it. But what's interesting about it is what it's made with is good old everyday Midwest corn. In this case, just corn is about 1/3 of the overall product. Now, they're also doing another type of situation also where they're taking old plastic bottles, recycled bottles, which are made out of polyester. They're re-chipping those back into chips and making that into carpet fibers, clothing, and other materials. So polyester right now has grown from about less than 10% on up to almost 1/3 of the overall market and should continue to grow. The last one we have is going to be an acrylic fiber, which today acrylic fibers for carpet is so minimal it's almost not even there today. What you will find is going to be upholstered fabrics such as velvet materials. Now, how are we going to clean all these? Each of these should be cleaned pretty much the same way. A pH of 10 or below is going to be your best bet, especially for nylon, where they talk about the nylon stain-resistant fibers, such as Stainmaster, which requires a pH of 10 or below, so as not to damage the stain resistance that goes on there. These are relatively simple to clean, much simpler than your natural fibers, and much less problematic. This is what you're going to be dealing with probably 99% of the time, staying within pH ranges and using chemicals that are designed for carpet, and you should stay out of trouble.